here, you know. So I'll be here, whatever we choose, but I would certainly like it to be the majority of people are able to join us. Okay. Can I get a show of hands? 11:30 to 6:30 works for me tomorrow. Okay. So that's what we'll do. Today we'll leave at 4 for the beach. We're going to go to Ledge Road, and we can all get Google directions before then to make sure we're on the same page. And then tomorrow, class will be from 11:30 to 6:30. That work for everyone? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So instead of reviewing the syllabus, I think I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to start talking about Prakriti and Vikruti of Rashi. And I'm showing you your persons, Prakriti and Vikruti. Through their appearance. Let's see. Facial analysis is on page 108. This is mostly Vikruti. We'll get to that. You all have fun things like tape flags to help you keep track of pages. So these are great to have to help you find things quickly for a class. For instance, the readings that I give you, it's great to have them flagged for the class. You just use there. I put the organizational line and so like color coding. That's always fun. Okay, so Ayurvedic facial analysis is on 108. Hair and nails is on 93. 93 and 94. 94 is the lips. We do not get to the feet today. And then 184 is predominant skin type. So I asked you some questions when you got the readings assigned. What would a person who is Pitta predominant look like? Was that Melinda?
That was somebody else.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Did someone say red? Nicole. Excellent. It's going to be red, but I would say pink.
Pinky.
Pinky or rosy is a balanced Pitta person. What happens when we have Pitta Vikruti is it starts to get red. So there starts to become inflammation, and that's where you tip the scales from pink to red. And so that's how you tell the difference between someone who is Pitta Prakruti, this is their nature, and someone who is Pitta Vikruti, this is an imbalance. So maybe they're having excess Pitta. It's going to turn out red. You probably see a lot of this in your work. So the pathologies of Pitta redness are like rosacea. Angela? You want to share some other pathologies for Pitta skin? with the general appearance. Eczema.
Psoriasis.
Eczema. Acne. Yep. Depends on the acne, but yes, like a red. Yeah. Yeah, a red acne. It's gonna be a acne. The like whiteheads. Inflammation. Yes.
Kind of pustule ones people get from so much.
Well, pustules are funny because pustules have lots of mucus and some sort of something. They're holding fluid or some sort of accumulation. So kapha can be acne too. So it's a different kind of acne, like whitehead. You know, without like the redness and inflammation.
Comedones.
Okay. That is a technical term, yes. I'm joining the words. White
domes. What are they called?
White domes. Comedones. That's a correct spelling. Yeah. And white heads. Okay. So, what else about a pitta person? We're looking at a person who's pitta, hint, hint, and what is it that we can say about them? Their eyes, their skin, their general appearance.
You normally, well, it's an association class.
No, it's not.
It is.
Yeah, they generally wear glasses or contacts. These are all generalizations. And they tend to have medium-sized eyes. So in comparison to a kapha predominant person, it's going to have these large liquid eyes. I think of like a deer, you know, like that's just like soft, just like you can melt in their eyes. A pitta person's eyes may tend towards redness. Their eyes may be very sharp and focused in their intensity. So the opposite of sharp, being soft. That's more kapha quality. It's just like really soft, gooey eyes. Not the chocolate.
Like easy eyes.
Say again?
Like easy eyes.
Easy eyes?
I don't know.
What do you say more?
Like sometimes sharp eyes can feel intense, you know, but like the soft, like softer, large liquid eyes can just feel easier.
Could we say something a little bit more specific, like gentle? Would that be an accurate?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Goes along with soft, I guess.
Yeah. Well, hard. Like sometimes a pitta person's eyes can be very hard.
Something in my eye.
So gentle versus pitta's intensity. How about vata?
Small.
Small. Yeah. Kind of, it can be sunken. So someone who has very deep eye sockets can look kind of sunken. It can be very dry. Yeah, so if you have your list that I have given you of the qualities, this is a great time to have those. The qualities on one side in their pairs.
So I really have something in my eye.
All right.
Yeah, this is good. Flush it with
And then on the other side are the qualities as they relate to dosha. Oh, let me see. You can have this one. And I have more of those. If you need any copies of handout, you can just email me. I'll send them. So turning back to okay. How about in general? What does a Vata person's face look like?
Angular, like prominent features.
Prominent features. Yep.
Thin face.
Thin. Generally thin. Again, these are all generalities. And another thing to remember is that we all have all of the doshas. So they might find expression in our faces, but we're looking for, when we're trying to just glance at someone, a client, and pick a modality and a treatment for them and an application within that treatment for them, we're trying to get their overall, the gist of what their prakruti is and vikruti. Make sense? So a Vata person's face is generally thin. It's also irregular. So the stereotypical Vata dominant prakruti is going to have like a crooked nose, or maybe the jaw will be offset from midline. So can we say crooked without any negative connotations? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So irregular or crooked. Laura brought up angular. Angular goes along with sharp and tends to be a pitta quality. Yes. So like a pointy chin is a very pitta. I have a very sort of classically pitta predominant face. So I have the pointy chin. I don't wear glasses or contact lenses, but that's an anomaly for me, for a pitta person. I have the rosy cheeks. I don't have particularly large eyes. I don't have particularly small eyes. They're kind of somewhere in the middle.
Do people in your family wear glasses?
Yes, everyone wears glasses.
Everyone, so that is an anomaly.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you can also look at people's teeth, but my teeth are similar to everyone else's in my families. So they're medium, they're not super small or super large, but in the context of my family, they're medium, although they look kind of small for a general population. So classic pitta face right here. Cute cheeks. And the other thing to remember is that a person's dominant prakruti, that dosha is going to be where they go out of balance most easily. Along with Vata, their dominant dosha, so in my case Pitta, is going to go out of balance more quickly than anything else. So I tend towards the red cheeks. I tend towards a little bit of inflammation, rosacea. I tend towards bloodshot eyes. I tend towards sensitivity for light. That's not necessarily Prakruti, that's Prakruti. But yeah. So Kapha person's general appearance in their face.
Round.
Round. Yep. So think of a baby. A baby's face is like, a healthy, robust baby is a little kapha being. Even though their dominance might be different, they're just round and chubby and jolly, and their features are generally very full, and their skin is milky smooth. That is a kapha baby. It's also what a typically predominant kapha person would look like. So round, maybe tends towards chubbiness, soft features, curvy, full. So full lips, full cheeks. There's a sense of fullness. And you'll see when we play Celebrity Ayurveda. You'll see what I mean. I made up this game like 10 years ago and got all this stuff for it, and I just loved it. So anytime I have a chance to play Celebrity Ayurveda, it makes Ayurveda fun and more like a game and less like dosha. Okay, so let's move on. What else can we say? If you look on page 184, it goes into a little bit more detail. A kapha predominant person is going to generally have thick skin. So that's sort of hard to quantify if you haven't touched a lot of faces. But there is thin, thick, and medium skin. And a kapha person is going to have thick skin, literally. It's going to feel like their skin is a thicker coating over their muscles than another person.
So kapha people probably have more collagen, do you think?
Absolutely. So thick skin tends to be slightly oily. Slightly oily. But not like, so there's kapha oily and then there's pitta oily. And pitta oily is like, can be like an oily slick, an oil slick oily. So it's not prone to wrinkles because of that oil, because of the thickness of the skin. It's not prone to wrinkles. Whereas vata and pitta, vata tends to be very wrinkly. Pitta has moderate wrinkles. So, you all know about how the stages of life correspond to the doshas? Have you talked about that? Okay. So the stages of life correspond to the doshas. And as I just mentioned about the baby, kapha rules childhood. So when people are ages like 0 to 25 or 30, they're in the kapha stage of life. When people are 30 to 60-ish, maybe even as late as, we'll say 75, depending on the person. This is the pitta time of life. And then 60 plus is vata time of life. So you can see that reflected in a person's development. Babies look like little bundles of kapha. The elders among us look like stereotypical vata people. They tend to be thin, they tend to be wrinkly, they tend to be dry, they tend to be prone to all sorts of vata pathology. And the same thing with children are prone to all sorts of kapha pathology. So they get lots of snotty noses, you know, like bronchitis, you know, things like that, like lots of mucus. It's gross, right? Like, I have some nieces that have snotty noses all the time. And the vata folks, the elders among us, are prone to arthritis, you know, prone to that dryness, prone to constipation. And then the pitta time of life is the time of life when we're going to get it. We are making our mark on the world. Whereas we're accumulating knowledge, information, experience as children. And we're connecting more deeply with spirit as we age. So, large pores for kapha. For pitta, premature wrinkling, generally kind of radiant skin. Can have oily zones, like the T-zone can be kind of oily. And then Vata tends to be dry. Dry. Can be kind of dull. Whereas Pitta can be kind of shiny. The skin can be dull. Color for Vata skin. Pale. Can be pale, but more sort of like, they're prone to a sallowness.
Like a grayish.
Yeah, like a grayish hue. Yeah. Because they're lacking.
Kapha can be pale. Right?
It's a different kind of pale. So the difference between Kapha and Vata pale is the difference between cool and cold. So Kapha cool is like the moon. They have this milky, radiant whiteness.
I think of like
Nicole Kidman, right? Yeah. That milky skin.
Milky.
Yeah, she has Kapha skin.
Yeah.
For sure. Whereas Vata skin is a little bit more like, that's a good example. Vata skin is a little bit more like
Christopher Walken.
Yes,
Yeah, Vata
it's sallow. Yeah. He has a Vata face because he's got kind of the hollow cheeks.
I was gonna say like Steve Buscemi.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Great example. Great
Oh.
one. Yeah. So we'll just put those guys down here.
Exactly.
But if you just say Christopher Walken and Steve Buscemi,
Those are some faces right there. Yeah.
Yes, guys.
Oh, you'll know. Yeah.
Sallow. Just kind of sallow. Not like, not radiant. Not super.
Then you have that series on
Shiny.
Yeah.
Glowing. Yeah. Okay.
Should we just do the celebrity one now?
I'm thinking, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's.
Yay.
I wouldn't wait any longer.
What?
We just can't wait any
I
longer.
can't. Oh, want like a wet.
Visualize.
Yes.
I'm like thinking about Nicole Kidman because she's got the Kapha skin, but she's very,
She's got that fire.
like she's not a Kapha gal. Nicole Kidman? Yeah. She's not No. She's just saying her skin, she has a Kapha skin quality, but she's totally Pitta.
Pitta Varupi, right?
Yeah. Pitta.
She's so tall.
No,
though.
Constitution.
Basic is Kapha, right? That's what,
No, we were just talking about like the skin quality.
yeah,
It's
because
like
she's
a
very
Kapha
flush.
skin quality. She's very like.
It's like a nice
milky,
pale.
The thing about celebrity Ayurveda is
They have professionals
they
working
have
on
professionals doing
Yeah.
their makeup. So
Yeah.
that's the challenge.
And like you said, like it comes out, like all of them exist in us, so that it's going to come out in different ways in everybody.
Sure is.
it. Ooh.
Soon.
Oh, yeah. That's a real game.
Yeah.
This isn't just like writing on the chalkboard.
No.
This isn't for the
There's
shit.
pics.
Oh wow, there's pictures. This is serious. I'm focused. Sorry.
Before I figured out how to make slideshows. Before I could do PowerPoint, I was doing celebrity Ayurveda, so I So here we have the beautiful Adele. Kappa.
Yeah.
Right? Like, look at that round face she has. And those beautiful curves, but she has a waist. Her stomach even looks flat. She might be wearing Spanx, but she's proportionate, which is the tip off of a true Kappa. She's got those pits and nails, full lips, full nose, big eyes. Well, the eye makeup could be. Yeah, so you can see how she has all of these qualities of that round, soft face, soft gaze.
She's shiny over there. You can see it.
So what other observations can you make about her? Yeah, Kappa person.
It's the shape of her face. It's Kappa.
So there's just like lots of curves in there. Even her arms have a sense of fullness. You know, like they're not skinny mini Vata arms. They're not kind of medium sized. Like the arms, they're full arms.
And her voice is full. It's a bouquet
Deep,
of sound.
yeah.
It's just amazing. Her
Yeah.
voice. Yeah.
Hard to tell about the hair because it's all professionally
You could tell.
done. But from what you see, what would you say?
You know, this kind of gentle curve of that piece that's hanging down by the side of her face. Looks soft, looks full, looks thick.
Just want her to give me a hug.
Right. You feel a lot of heart here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever seen her in concert, you get the same feeling.
Yeah. Adele.
Did you get your pictures?
What's that?
Did you get the pictures?
Oh, I probably got them offline.
Oh.
And then printed them.
There's a Vata friend.
Mhm.
So there, I was looking at this last night, so I have some insights, but tell me what you see.
The angular.
The thin, the forearm with the thin,
Yeah, she's very thin.
yeah, it's very thin, but it's longer, thin and long.
And she's
Thin but
short
long.
too, isn't she short?
She's short.
But she's under 100 pounds. So that's
Yeah.
very big.
And that was along the lines of what I was thinking last night. Her head looks slightly disproportionate.
Right.
To her body.
Mhm.
She looks choosy. So if someone's unhealthy, is it still
But
they're
that's no big.
unhealthy, then where you get that imbalance of the head goes too big
Yeah.
for the body.
So this is a really good question. Would you repeat that?
If someone, Trevor macaroni in my days, was naturally Vata, or if they weren't naturally Vata, but they were unhealthy and they were thin, where their head is, where it looks a little larger and it's not proportioned.
Like maybe
Would they
she's
still
got
be
pits.
Vata if they just
Right,
weren't
what's
healthy?
the imbalance to
Yeah.
make her.
They weren't eating properly. They weren't. Eating
Yep.
these
This was my thought exactly. Was
Ah.
she looks emaciated to me.
Mhm.
She doesn't look robustly healthy. Even a Vata person can look robustly healthy for them. But because because of the disproportion between her head seems a little large for her body.
Yeah.
You see that?
I noticed that a lot.
Yeah.
So is it that she naturally supposed to be that thin to make her, which would make her Vata, or
So
she?
this was the thought I was having last night, was that I think she's probably a picked up person, Pitta dominant, but she has a Vata imbalance. And an eating disorder is certainly a Vata imbalance.
Interesting, yeah, but she, because of her ability to have a most fortunate lifestyle, she compensates so it's well hidden, right? Because you don't see well hidden in the sense that it's she doesn't look apparently ill.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we were to see her own natural, like right out
Yeah.
of the tub, how would
Right.
Yeah.
And check out her chin.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the angular, sharp, angular chin of a Pitta person.
She's got tiny bones, it looks like.
It does look like she has tiny bones and a small frame. So that is a quality of both Vata and Pitta, is delicate. Like you can have a delicate Pitta person. They might be medium sized, which she might be medium sized if she ate normally. But here we see her with this Vata imbalance, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was just a little bit heavier.
Yeah.
Heavier, she would
10
probably be
pounds.
pretty obvious.
Yeah.
10 pounds.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
5'4". I just looked it up. She's not that
That's
short.
short.
Yeah,
Not
so
that
Yeah.
she's 5'4", which like I'm like 5'4", and she weighs like 60 pounds less than me.
Yeah. She's
So
like 90
cute.
pounds.
It's more
Mhm.
true Vata person. Vata predominant.
You look like, yeah. Well, I believe that because your culture
She,
tends to
we're
not
thinking that she won't.
And then, you know.
So this is Emily Dickinson.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
Her eye look like you.
Really?
The shape. But I see.
Maybe you're a reincarnation.
Whoa.
Well, I know Emily Dickinson.
You take off your.
She's looking at me.
Yeah.
Ah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what does Emily Dickinson do to you?
I see pictures so far.
Yeah.
The eye almost
Gotcha. So her face
not even.
You look at the nose, maybe. Nose, I guess.
How about her upper body? Check out her upper body. Her shoulders, her chest.
Doesn't look like she has much of a chest.
Right.
It almost
Yeah.
looks like she has like wrinkles in her dress where her chest would be.
Her arms look
She
really
looks
long.
crazy.
Really big for her body.
She's kind of a regular.
Yeah.
Her arms
long.
look long and like knobby hands, knobby
She's definitely
joints.
So
a star.
Molly has
But
nailed
in
it.
that dress though,
Molly has nailed it. Where corsets or something?
I don't remember.
We're gonna go with Molly's thought for right now because she's summarized everything that everyone's saying. She looks irregular.
Mhm.
Ah.
Like she does not look like Victoria Beckham looked perfectly proportionate except for her head.
Mhm.
But
She
Emily
looks
Dickinson,
perfect.
I mean, her shoulders seem too small for her head, but naturally she doesn't necessarily appear like she's emaciated so much as very thin and very irregular. Like long arms, short
Yeah.
torso. Yes, the dress, the corset, like those could all be factors. But then check out her face. Like her nose, the placement of her nose and her lips seems a little bit irregular to me. They don't necessarily seem like
Right.
symmetrical. And those shoulders, like compared to the width of her neck, look at the width of her shoulders. They're very narrow,
Yeah.
very thin, and just kind of irregular, like disproportionate. How old is she? Oh, I think she's in her 20s.
Her arms are like
I'm
extremely
surprised.
long.
Yeah.
Her fingers do look rather.
Knobby. Big knuckles.
Here, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Arthritis, yeah. Did she have any troubles with her hands that we know of?
I don't know. Maybe that's possible.
So she would be Vata.
She would be a Vata predominant person. Yeah, her Prakriti would be Vata. But also she maybe has some Vata Vikruti going on too.
Yeah.
Victoria Beckham, she was Vata. No, she's Pitta stuff, but
I would say she's Pitta Prakriti with a Vata Vikruti. It has kind of a Pitta face. Excuse me, into the fact that she's. Let's just look at them side by side. Let's look at Victoria's shoulders.
They're
Yeah,
very, like,
she's
square.
she's
like,
proportioned.
She's proportionate.
She's small, except her head.
Whereas the lovely and brilliant Emily, kind of irregular, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing too because she had such a brilliant mind, and it's like it emphasizes her mind. That picture, you know.
Yeah. Which is that Vata quality of being able to connect with the ether and the air, the world of ideas. And here's oops.
Oh, I forget what you said about him.
His face.
Oh, yeah.
He has super long arms.
Look at those arms.
He has really long arms and short legs, yeah. And
He's got this super like
He's
he's tall.
He
long.
faces
Yeah,
angular.
it's cool. Ears.
Look at his chin.
Yeah,
Is it a little crooked?
But
Pointy.
pointy.
It's crooked.
Yeah.
It's not pointy.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
It's not pointy, but it's super long.
Are you asking me that?
No, it's like square.
He's got some ears going on.
Some ears, yeah.
Small
Look at the
mouth.
placement of his eyes.
Larger.
One eye is a little bit higher than the other. Let's take in the information. His jaw is a little bit irregular. It's not pointy or sharp. Even the corners of his jaw are kind of rounded. A little, I would say, on the dull side rather than sharp. He's got those ears.
Yeah.
No,
No.
let's just keep taking in the information.
Yeah. Large.
So the ears are, although the ears are large, they're larger than his head. You know, like they're disproportionate to his head.
He's got the fire though. I mean, he wouldn't give up. So he's got that pitta quality going
Sure
on.
does.
He's such a winner.
His gaze looks a little intense.
He's driven. Yeah, he's got an intense gaze.
That intensity.
And so we know his body, not from this picture, but we know what his body looks like from all of this, you know.
He's very disproportionate. Like his arms are.
Are you looking him up?
Yeah, because this is something I remember that he's 6'4". He's 6'4", but his arms are the length of somebody who's 6'7", and then his legs are the height of somebody, or the length of somebody who's like 6'2". So he's like, I remember this because he's like built to be a swimmer because he's got short, powerful legs, but really long arms. So he's like,
And a very aquiline torso.
yeah.
Yeah. And he looks like pizza.
So we're leaning towards
So I have to learn Thai. I have information about Thai too, so I have to listen compare. Yeah. I think that
So, in general, his body and his face are vata. Vata. The disproportionate, as Laura had shared with us, like the length of his limbs to his torso, to each other, to what they would be proportionally for a person. They're disproportionate. His face is irregular. He's got that little crooked thing going on in his jaw. His lips are also a little irregular.
Yeah.
They're not perfectly symmetrical. I don't think his nose is symmetrical in terms of where his chin is either. He's like turned a little bit. I think this might be his best side.
Is his left ear?
Yeah.
Out a little bit more. Is that
everything
it's
is
just
right
from my
side.
seeing it's turned a little
It's a
bit.
different face. Everything.
So his right eye appears a little higher. His left ear comes forward a little bit more. Those are all very Vata qualities. His gaze, his intensity is pure Pitta.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So this is where, you know, you can have your Prakriti and be dominant in one dosha. He might be Vata dominant with a very close Pitta secondary. He wants to win all the medals. That is Pitta quality.
Yeah.
Clay Matthews.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm like, who's that?
I know. Football.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Well, he's got English on, but he looks kind of.
Yeah.
His face is very.
His face is.
He must have probably because he exercise. I don't know, but he must have look like a perfect muscle and. Yeah.
But like stocky.
I don't sense such a roundness on the face.
I tried to.
You don't.
No.
No. Kind of square. She's like
Proportioned.
No, and then I did get patient angles there.
Okay, so let's focus. Let's focus on Clay Matthews. Is he large?
strong. I think so.
Yes.
Broad.
Okay. So we wouldn't say that he's either small or medium, correct?
Mm.
And not just because he's a pro football player, but that's his structure.
Yeah.
His structure couldn't hold all those muscles if it wasn't large. So he's very large and he looks proportionate. He doesn't look like he has these biceps pasted on. Those look like part of him. Those pectorals, they're large, but they're part of him. They're proportionally part of him.
Yeah.
Look at those hands on that football.
It's like a bite.
Yeah.
He looks
Yeah.
like a Viking. So the hair,
Thick, lustrous hair.
Yeah,
thick,
nice.
lustrous hair. Yeah.
The sour
Blonde.
hair.
What's that?
The sour hair. Would you say he's got the
Rasa. Okay. Yeah, sour hair.
I would say.
His eyes look very intense though. I don't know,
Okay.
is he squinting? But they look
So now let's look at his face. He's got kind of small sunken eyes,
Yeah, small
Mm.
ear.
small ears, small nose, even
small
Sharp.
lips,
small sharp lips.
The lip, yeah.
very angled.
Now see his angles, the angle of his jaw is a little bit different than Michael Phelps.
Mm.
You see that?
It's got a little curve to
It's
it.
more perfect.
He's got a,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
got a
More
curve,
shape
but look
to
at this angle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's angle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
smooth.
There's no like, it's just,
Yeah, you can.
That's like
say
that.
Oh.
Yeah.
there's not that round softness.
That's what
It's
Michael
very angular.
Jackson wanted.
Yeah.
Put it on
Oh,
that
okay.
chin, right?
So what would we say about Clay Matthews' face? If we had to pick a Prakriti based on his face alone.
Yeah.
All the angles, look at that nose.
Yeah, it's
Those lips, angles.
So focused too.
So focused,
I think naturally if he was just looking at it, he'd still look
you'd still look like that, yeah.
intense.
intense,
A lot of lines.
pitta.
Square
But the
forehead,
body,
Tough.
tough a body, right?
Mm.
Like you could pull a drum.
It's in
Okay. What did someone say about dogs?
Oh, I said, I feel like you could pull a dog.
You just like, come on.
Yeah.
It's just straight.
Strong.
Oh.
Oh.
Mm.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
His
Can we share
eyes.
PBS?
Yeah,
Can we
seriously.
share- Can we share PBS?
Can we shave it?
All over the
Balding.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Laura. He's balding.
Balding.
Which dosha is
It's,
prone to premature balding? It's a
He's got a lot of angles.
What was that, Jason?
He's got a lot of angles on his face.
Mm.
The angles. Look at the
He
nose.
looks very
Yeah.
proportionate,
So
doesn't he?
Yeah.
No, angles, like-
The position of all of his features are like,
Looks like it's coming from. If you shave the beard, then it kind of looks like squares off. Look at his nose.
So very angular facial features. What's the other cue about Pitta here?
Glasses.
The eyeglasses. Premature and graying. Look how gray his beard is. He was probably like 45 when this picture was taken.
Hmm.
That's pretty
Wow,
gray.
I'm pretty bald for.
That's pretty bald.
Yeah, because he was too young.
Mm.
Yeah, much older.
Yep. And lots of angles. And what do we know about him?
Super driven.
Wicked, not
Yeah.
smart, successful, driven, got his name out there, that oily spreading quality of his
Mhm.
people, his reputation out there. So what do we think? Steve Jobs, Prakriti, probably Pitta. Was it pancreatic cancer?
So what would be?
I think so, yeah.
It was cancer. I don't remember what kind. Prakriti.
I'm on.
When would we apply? Only in balance. Sorry, I'm trying to.
Yeah. So that Steve Jobs died of cancer suggests that there was some underlying pathologies going on, which means that something was out of balance in Vata and Kapha, most likely, unless it was entirely chronic.
Pancreatic.
Yeah, pancreatic cancer is very much related to Pitta imbalance. The ability to digest sweetness. There's our girl.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there she is.
She's so pretty.
I had a makeup book from Kevin Hopkins, and he would read celebrities, and Nicole Kidman, he could make anyone look like anyone. And
Oh.
he turned her into like the 60s sex kitten with like the smoky eyes, and she looked fully transformed. It was amazing. Sorry, this picture just.
She's definitely Pitta, right?
Okay.
She's got red
Let's-
hair.
Let's examine the evidence. She's got red hair.
Mm-hmm.
That says Pitta to us.
She has eyes that look like they could tend towards redness.
Mm.
Look a little pink.
And her lips are very red. It looks like she's not really wearing a lot of makeup.
Sharp features.
So, curly kinky hair is Vata.
Not right.
Curly wavy hair is
It's
Kapha.
Is that kinky hair?
That would be kinky. Yep, that would be curly kinky.
But her face shape is almost Kapha because her features are soft and it's square. And
Liquid eyes.
yeah,
Liquid eyes.
they're not super intense.
But I bet she could turn it
But
on.
I think it's just a picture. Yeah.
Looking at this lady,
Yeah,
she could turn on the
pretty much.
intensity.
I feel like she has kind of intense eyes.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
So are her eyes large, small, or medium?
Small, maybe.
On the smaller side. I'd say they're more medium because they're like pretty proportionate to her face.
Yeah, she has makeup on enhancing her eyes, so without makeup, I would say they're definitely medium. or
Yeah.
smaller.
You know, she's got a little bit of a sleepy look, which might be making them look smaller than they are.
Mhm.
She does have a soft curve here rather than a sharp angle. It's a little bit softer, but there's like some pretty Pitta stuff going on her face. She does have that milky white skin.
Mm.
Could she be tridoshic?
If I had to assess her just from this photo, I would say that she's Pitta predominant in her Prakriti.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say she's tridoshic.
Yeah.
There's no red hair, just medium-sized features, medium-sized lips, medium-sized eyes, medium-sized nose. She's had a nose job, but doesn't really matter. To me, this says Pitta.
Anyway, and her head is more proportionate with her slender body.
Mm.
So she's more balanced as opposed to being like Vata with a big head.
Right.
Not that all Vatas have large heads, but when we looked at Victoria Beckham.
Right, because we think that Victoria Beckham has more of Vata imbalance.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm catch up.
You're right on target.
She's still a Pitta, but she's an imbalanced Pitta. Vata. Whereas Nicole Kidman's more like, she doesn't look emaciated. She has a kind of a healthy look.
She has a medium-sized body.
Right.
So we wouldn't say either that she has a kapha accumulation. She's robustly healthy rather than emaciated or overweight.
She's Batwoman.
Well, yeah.
Just kidding.
So,
Upside down. The prince is upside down.
Harry.
Mary.
You got some great photos.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Spend some money on this.
That's a great way to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's really
Wow, eyes.
Yeah.
He's got all sorts of stuff going on there.
Ah.
Yeah.
So let's.
I love the pictures of the guy that they think could be his real dad, comparing him to Prince Charles. It's so funny. He looks just like the potential real dad. It's so funny.
Totally looks like Prince Charles.
Yeah, he does. He does.
As he gets older. Yeah.
I see like small, close together eyes.
Okay.
Pink.
He's pink.
Pink.
Which says what?
Hair.
What does it say that he's pink?
Yeah, and his face is angular.
It's gonna say
Soft brown.
yeah, it's kind of hard to tell because he's smiling.
Yeah.
And he's like medium build, even though he's like strong looking. He's not like huge, you know. He wouldn't be next to a football
Medium
player. That's wouldn't be watching, but he's like extra large. Yeah.
And we know context because of the royal family. He's medium.
Mm-hmm.
He's not extra tall or extra small compared to the rest of his family, even if we don't know who his dad really is. Laura, it's not me.
I love this stuff.
So even look at his arms. He's pink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of pink. Got reddish hair. Those ears, they're gonna get sunburned,
Yeah.
right? He's just kind of like pinkish
Yeah.
all over. He's got this pinkish hue.
He actually have the gray eyebrow. Not really gray, but what they call for that white.
White,
yeah.
Like it's a pale blonde.
It's very
Yeah.
bright.
Blonde.
Unless it's light.
Yeah. That's another sign of a pitta quality is like the sun affects pitta people. Their hair, their skin, their eyes. So if we had to guess what his prakriti is, which dosha would be dominant?
Pitta.
Pitta. Yeah. But he does have, we'll say he has vata eyes, because I think they look a little sunken. They're a little close together. They're a little small. I bet he wears contact lenses though. Last but not least,
I feel like there's so much information.
so
Yeah. Last, the lip is
Big eyes.
Very full lips, big eyes.
yeah.
full lips, big eyes. What did you say, Jason?
The eyes are really sharp. Surprised. I see angles in her face though too.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me where the angles are.
Her chin is more square. Like where her nose is.
We see roundness.
It's fullness. Soft.
And I feel like the eyes are very like liquid eyes, large liquid eyes. I don't know, but they're intense too.
Intense, but like kind.
So if you remember what I said about Oprah, do you remember what? She might be tridosha.
She might be tridosha.
Yeah.
Ah,
So she has an empire. We can start there. We know this about her. That is a pitta quality. She has spread her name far and wide. I bet there's no one on the planet who doesn't know who Oprah is. In a,
Yeah.
relative.
in a cultural context,
Yeah.
not some Aborigine who's living completely cut off from everything.
Does her have a struggle?
Her hair is bought.
Well, so hair is going to be really tricky here, but we'll just go with what's in the picture. It's curly, but it's not kinky in the picture. It might be kinky in real life, but what is her hair?
Because it's shiny and
It's kappa. It's
yeah.
curly, but wavy, not curly, kinky. It's shiny.
Yeah, shiny.
It's thick. It's really full. It might not be her real hair.
It's
So,
not.
yeah,
Most likely
not her real hair. Yeah, but for the sake of the picture,
It looks just soft,
it looks kind of kappa.
lustrous.
Yeah, soft, thick, lustrous, wavy hair. She tends towards a roundish face, but like Jason pointed out, there are some angles there. You know, the shape of her jaw is, you know, she's got that angle from, you know, right around her ear down to her chin is an angle. But it tends towards round. She's got round cheeks.
Yeah.
She's got full lips.
Yeah, that's just a great makeup job.
Yes.
You can see the contour.
She has
Oh,
a
yeah.
wonderful makeup
She's got the
artist.
contouring on the nose, making her
Yeah.
nose appear more narrow than it is.
Mm-hmm.
She has large eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you think about Steve Jobs' eyes or Prince Harry's eyes. She has large eyes. And they're soft and liquid. We do know her. She has a ton of compassion. She must have a ridiculous amount of stamina to live the
Oh my
life,
God.
to do everything that she does.
Yeah. Keep going.
Wow,
She
that
has
is
so
a
many
cup
dogs.
of quality. Yeah, she's a
She's
million
like
dogs.
8
She
dogs.
has a hugely open heart. So I could see Kapha, I could see Pitta, and I could even see Vata.
associated with? Sorry.
Yeah.
Compassion.
That's a very Kapha
Kapha.
predominant quality. But she's also deeply spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
which leads me to think she's either tridoshic or dual doshic. She's a Pitta Kapha, is probably most likely.
And what would you associate her with? What characteristics for Vata for her if she's trying to?
So I don't believe that's her real hair.
Right.
I'm guessing
like a
she has-
kinkier.
I'm guessing she has
Yeah.
kinky curly hair, which is not just, as you know, you can see with Laura and myself, is not just necessarily related to race.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So her curly kinky hair seems to me to be a Vata, an expression of Vata.
But when it is associated with race,
Uh-huh.
is that still an expression of Vata? Like you have a whole community of racially equal people with the same kind of hair. They all be considered Vata hair.
Yes.
And when she doesn't have makeup on, it's she has less of that like glow. It's more of like a dull grayer kind of look instead of like a glow. Yeah, when she doesn't have makeup on, you can kind of see like the
I
brown.
always thought she, even without makeup, I always felt she had like, I think of her as like softer.
It's soft, but it's like the complexion is more Vata in like the like
Sallowness.
yeah, but like with like the more of the like grayish. She looks like a little grayish.
Okay.
I know
So
Google
there's
her.
in person?
No, just like
Just-
when she didn't wear makeup on her
just like,
shows,
see,
like sometimes she
stars
wouldn't wear makeup to like make a point, and it's a little it's like I got a picture.
So grayishness, particularly in someone who is a person of color, indicates dryness.
I know from working on my black skin girlfriends.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that too is, but that could be Vikruti rather
Yeah,
than
that's right.
Prakriti.
It can lean towards what they call ashy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ashy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a quality that they don't, nobody
Well,
who's
it's like what we
darker
talked about on
complected
Thursday
likes.
night.
They don't-
Yeah.
Even white ashiness, were you, or was it back, you were touching upon ashiness with
No, it was
Oh, it was during, it was Molly, yeah.
And,
Well, it was like,
in
and just
Virginia.
know my white people,
Yeah.
we still get ashy, you just can't see it.
It's so funny.
There's not gonna raise.
skin quality. It's more in the desert, like my darker complected friends, they were always complaining about how, oh my gosh, I'm starting to look ashy. I have to get some more lotion, you know. Yeah, it was more apparent in the desert.
Oh yeah, that.
Because they were getting so dry because it's so
Celebrity
dry.
irony.
Yeah, we were in 130-degree heat and higher. It was definitely dry.
Has anyone traveled to the high desert? Like Mexico? Perhaps?
Been there, yeah.
Jason? Do you remember how dry it was?
Super dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then in Iraq, it was 150.
I was gonna say.
Oh.
Yeah. Was it dry?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my memory of the desert is like literally feeling the moisture being sucked out of my lungs.
Oh.
Yeah, and nose and eyes, like just like the dryness. So that's a very Vata landscape. Dry, rough.
Yeah.
And the heat contributes to the dryness, which is something to remember both for yourselves and for your Vata, Prakriti, and Vikriti clients. Too much heat creates more dryness, which you don't want. So you want the heat to balance the cold of Vata, but you don't want hot. It's just going to dry it out. You want
what kind of
warm.
heat? So is it like
Yep.
humidity?
So
Evaporates
moist,
right away.
but any kind of heat, like think about what Jason was saying about Iraq and the high desert. The heat contributes to the dryness. So it's going to depend on the person. If they're Vata, Prakriti, or Vikriti and suffer from an excessive amount of dryness,
Anyway.
you would want to look at the heat being a factor
Right.
in their treatment. So you would want to think more towards very warm, even if it's going to be a moist heat.
Mm.
About that, I work on Denny on that day because her half side was so dry. So I put the treatment in the hot spot, and by the time I take out from the left the right side, and the right side was kind of smooth and kind of oil and soft a little bit. And it made me think about something is not from her because the half side is so dry. Yeah, I try to push more the treatment that we put on our hand, right? The herb is kind of dry, super dry, but the right side can do kind of easily. I take out from the steamer. Yeah, I put in there. Yeah, that has made me. I don't find out until you talk about that. Yeah, that's what I think about her. Yeah, on that day.
Great connection.
Thank you.
So we can get specific with pathologies and imbalances if we look at page 93 and 94. So, what can we see in the lips that might indicate imbalance? Cracked lips. Which dosha would be out of balance if they were cracked?
Vata?
red lips.
Red well formed.
So that's what you would see. for
Oh, we're
Vikruti.
going to Vikruti.
We're going to Vikruti.
Okay.
That's what because we want to start to figure out what an imbalance looks like. In terms of different aspects of the face.
Dry. Well, I guess dry is dry and cracked.
Dry can be pitta, because pitta is hot, and the heat can dry things up.
Oh.
So it can also be dry. It can also be cracked. However, a pitta dry cracked lips might be bleeding more quickly than vatas.
Any kind of blemish or
So, are you thinking pitta?
pitta? That's what I was looking at.
So, yeah, so we're going with the acnes here. So sometimes people get cold sores on their lips.
Yeah.
That's a very pitta.
That's pitta.
That's herpes, one of the herpes complex.
Simplex.
Cold sores on the lips. Kapha. Sometimes there's this white accumulation that you see with people. On the corner of their lips.
Yeah, in the corner.
I'm going with that. I like that.
That's kapha.
Yeah.
It's
What
an
about-
accumulation.
What about like when people have the not so much like the sticky scum, but like the almost like spittle in the corner? Like I always think that's like a dry situation. I feel like that's like a weird dry situation, even though it's moisture.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's kapha
Yeah.
because it's liquid. It's fluid.
Yeah.
So it's fluid in the wrong place too. So that's gonna cue you into that there's something happening for kapha.
Yeah.
So we're lips wet.
Yeah.
These words are so.
I see some people too.
Yeah. Scum, lips sweat.
That's right.
They call it saliva. So jaundice can create yellow lips. That's definitely pitta. Too much pitta in the liver. Anemia is going to create pale lips. That's also a blood disorder. Most likely pitta. There can be other kinds, but Sarah?
I would have thought pale lips would have been vata.
About the imbalance.
Yeah.
Pale lips caused by anemia are going to be a
'Cause it's
pitta
a blood.
imbalance. Yeah, pale lips. We can put pale lips absolutely under vata.
But because of the cause.
Yes, in that particular case, yes. So someone bites their lips.
Vata.
Same thing with biting nails. It signifies nervousness. Have you ever seen someone's lips tremble?
Yes.
Trembling lips? What do you think?
Associated with nervousness.
Nervousness, like any kind of nervous system irregularity, it's going to be vata. If you're trembling because of fear, it's probably going to be vata. If you're trembling out of anger, it's probably going to be pitta. Tell me what you're thinking, Molly.
Oh, no, I was just looking down. So it's just, it says that tremors are vata balance, but nervousness and fear vata. Sorry, just reading.
That's okay. Yeah, so nervous system fear are vata vikruti qualities. Vata derangement is along the same lines. And emotional insecurity. Those are all Vata. Vikruti. Sometimes the words stop coming. Yeah. So also some other things that can happen is we can have spots on our lips, which can mean indigestion, low agni, incompatible food combining, or parasites. Black or brown lips. I've never seen this, just so you know. Lung disorders caused by chronic smoking. And then the lips also reflect the body. Someone joining us?
Yeah.
I think we pretty much did hair.
Kimberly, we should
Yes.
throw an arrow in the nervousness and fear and Vata derangement. Emotional insecurity should be over the Vata column.
Because it's under Pitta. But then you were saying that.
that.
I'm looking at here. This is what just was confusing me. Because then how you were saying that it's a Vata.
It's not in the Vata? Yeah.
Okay,
So
because on
it's a-
here it's just listed under Pitta. That's why I was confused. But it's not a big deal. I was just.
Oh, I'm sorry. So see at the top here? These are, okay. So there's 3 columns at the top, but then there's 2 columns below. And the 2 columns below go side to side. And the column at the top is just describing that one.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
My
I see.
fault.
I see. Sorry.
That's okay. This is
Little comments.
That's usually
well formatted.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
Nope. Oh, brains over the 2 columns.
Yeah.
So you have the quick guide dominant theme type. If you need to refer back to it, that's on page 184. That's very helpful for the facial mask that we're going to be doing today in the facial massage. So yeah, what I think I'd like to do is let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to start with the demo. We're going to go through all of our stones that we'll be using, including the. No, I'm excited. I'm excited. We're going to go through each one of the stones as well as the crystals. We're going to go through the herbs and different carriers. We're going to talk about different strokes, and then I'll do a hands-on demo. So,
I'm so excited.
come back at 2.
2. I think I missed something. We were supposed to bring all our stuff today.
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
you're good.
Good.
Tomorrow.
Just as long as you know what it is you need
Okay.
for stones
Yeah.
to fill out your collection. You sounded like you had a pretty complete
I
collection.
have a pretty complete collection. Yes. Always.
So we're going to start with a sacrum stone. And our model today is going to be Laura. And when Laura saw the stones, she immediately said, "This is an awesome sacrum stone." So we're going to go with this stone. This is going to be the grandpa stone. So the sacrum stone, have you gone through all the stones, Karen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be our sacrum stone for today.
So it's very flat and very.
Yeah, so it's very flat. We want it to be comfortable for the sacrum to be on. So we don't want it to be super bumpy. We don't want it to be super thick. We want it to be kind of thin and flat and about sacrum shaped. You know, so if you can imagine the stone sort of fitting in for someone's sacrum.
You need to find that one today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then be making a list. You know, if you haven't made a list already as we go through the stones, please make a list of what stones you need. So here's our sacrum stones.
What page are our stones?
So the stones we need for facial therapy are on 161.
161.
So shoulder and neck stones. We don't have exactly egg-shaped ones like they do in the picture here, but these are basalt. We're gonna go with these as the shoulder neck stones, imagining they're going right here, so kind of the shape that you'll want. Just gonna go in order as it is in your book, although it's going to jump around a little bit. Citrine point. So the point of the citrine is here. This is the root of the citrine. You can tell specifically the citrine because generally the root is white and the tip is kind of like an orange yellow color. Oops, sorry. So the next two stones are the erector spinae stones. Again, these are a little bit different than what you see in your book because there's variation in what you can use. So we're going to use these as the erector spinae stones. These are the hand rest stones. Yeah. So we're going to use these as hand rest stones. So one side is flat on this stone. You can see the hand fits very nicely.
So one side flat.
It can be, it doesn't have to be, but this just sort of happens. They're both have sort of a flat side and more of a rounded side. So lapis lazuli, I brought chrysocolla for the chakra. This is specifically, I like chrysocolla. It's specifically a stone for communication. The color of the fifth chakra is turquoise. And so I find this, I have actual turquoise as well, but I find this to be just a really potent throat chakra stone. Chrysocolla.
Name that stone?
Chrysocolla.
Yeah, that's
CHRYSACOLLA. Chrysocolla. Yeah, it's a yummy, juicy stone. Amethyst. So I brought a little chunk of amethyst. Amethyst for the third eye. Rose quartz for the heart. I brought my amethyst heptide for charging. It's beautiful. So it's not a heptide, but it's a nice sized chunk to charge. And so what I do is I carry an amulet in my pocket of the stones that I'm working with, or whatever talismans I'm working with. And this sits next to my bed at night. This isn't my work stone, but I brought it here to show you as an example. And so I just place everything on this before I go to bed at night. And then in the morning, everything's charged and clear.
And those are like your daily stones, like.
Yeah, these are my daily. Yeah, that's what I'm
near you.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
We only have one trigger point stone, because I think that's all we're going to need for the face. So we're going to use this little pointy side for trigger points. We have a sandbag over here. Does anyone want me to pass this around? I'll go with the sandbag.
I think she's being fresh on that one.
I love Superman stone.
Kryptonite?
Superman, he's scary, kind of this one. You see Superman movie?
Not recently.
It's kind of the green one, but it's this purple.
Yeah.
That's when he's scared. Maybe he lost his power.
Yeah.
Kryptonite.
Kryptonite. Yeah.
Movie fever.
Here are the quartzite stones. I'm just gonna pass these around.
That's exactly what I was
Rather than these are the cold stones. Rather than a cooler, we're just using a metal bowl with cool water. I have 2 quartz crystal permeators. So you can use any size. The picture in the book has a hand size quartz terminator. It means it has a terminal end. So they're also referred to as quartz points because of the pointy end. And on these quartz, the root is still clear-ish, but it's whiter than the point. So you can kind of see
The root's usually
there's
always
the
whiter
root.
on them.
It's going to be generally rougher and whiter, not just for citrine. Citrine, it is going to be white, but for clear, these quartz are pretty clear. So they don't have as much white at the root where they were taken away from their geode. But you can discern, there's the facets of the stone, and then there's the rough end of the stone. So the rough end is the root, and the facets are the point. Thank you.
The crystals on there.
Yeah, just the amethyst one can stay on.
So when you use a amethyst for charging the other stones, do you need to like recharge that amethyst?
Yeah, so the amethyst is clearing and charging. So what's happening overnight when I put my daily stones on my amethyst is that they're getting cleared from whatever energies they absorbed and they're getting recharged. So once a month, generally on the full moon, it's rather absurd. I collect all of my crystals and I wash them in generally salt water, and then I put them outside under the moon in the evening.
Yeah.
So it's just part of my rhythm of cleaning my house. So that's when if I've picked up some like particularly funky energies that my amethyst isn't clearing, then I know I need to clear myself.
Yeah.
Not my crystals, not my amethyst, not my rechargers. So what's that?
Take a moon bath.
Take a moon bath. Yeah, take a salt bath myself.
Yeah.
Clear my chakras. So okay, so the white quartzite stones are all in the water. So what do you use the white quartzite stones?
Oh, the quartz points.
So they're for clearing, additional clearing. So Molly asked a question about what to do with the quartz points. Does anyone have an idea?
You can use them in substitution for any other stone, right? So if you don't have a citrine or whatever, you can use that.
They're boosters, so you can use them in addition to.
Okay.
And you can also use them for additional off-the-body clearing. So if you can sense that there's a particular chakra that's disordered, we'll just say snarly. So we have a snarly chakra in front of us, and the layout is, the person's resting. We can take the quartz point held by the root and just kind of clear the chakra above that person's snarly chakra. That's what I use quartz points for. And that's when it's helpful to have really large ones if you're going to be doing a lot of energetic off-body chakra clearing work. So we already have a sacrum stone, so maybe we need a belly stone. I think I'm going to use this stone for the belly stone. It's relatively round. It's roundish. It's going to make a nice happy belly.
Do you have to be flat, or can it be kind of thick, or do you prefer? What's the best?
So like this could also be a belly stone.
Okay.
So you can see it's a little bit thicker. It's a bit wider. It's going to depend on the person.
Yeah. So you should have two.
You know, I would definitely have at least 2, maybe 3
Right. Okay.
belly stones, hand stones, neck and shoulder stones.
Okay.
Simply because you just never know who's going to walk in your office for hot stone treatment. You
Right,
don't
like
wanna
you
be
couldn't put that
unprepared.
on a really petite frame.
Yeah, you don't want this on
Yeah.
like
Right.
a woman who's like 4'9". And
I was
really,
thinking
exactly,
trying to go that route.
absolutely, yeah. So this is more of a medium stone. You know, I could certainly use this today, but I'm gravitating towards this. I can't really say why right now, but I'm gravitating towards this, not this. That's something I wanted to address with you all is last weekend, there were quite a few people who, while following my directions, their practice partners weren't psyched about what was happening. And so although I'm offering you a guided tour of what to do and what sort of everything in a session would look like, it's always up to you to use your intuition and to communicate with your client. Always, always, always. Whether I'm leading a session, whether I'm talking you through something and instructing you to do something, while it's important to learn things, it's also important to trust your intuition and to trust your communication with your client. Your client's like, this sucks. You want to figure out a way to make it better for them. Even in the classroom, it might mean that you have to do a little bit more learning outside of the classroom, but trust your intuition, please. It's one of your greatest tools, one of your greatest assets. And trust your communication with your client. Okay, this sucks for you. What can we do to make it better? Do you need less pressure? Do you need more pressure? What is it you need? And let's try to meet that within, of course, your comfort level of learning what you're still trying to be here to learn. So, belly stone, belly stone. I don't think we're going to do any more quartzite tuning. Face stones. So face stones, there's multiple face stones. I like to get stones in pairs and have them be similar shaped. So these particular face stones are going to be really good for flushing, which is dragging their edges towards the ears. And again, depending on your client size, you're going to want to have different size face stones because there are some people who have teeny tiny faces and some people who have very large faces. So, and the same thing with toes. You know, there's people who have very tightly spaced toes and other people who have lots of space between each toe. So I'll give these to you in the pairs.
So you recommend for the face a little more flatter?
So for those particular stones, they're good for flushing. So you can hold them like this and use the edge.
Okay.
Not necessarily flatter. I'm going to pass around some stones. You'll see.
The flushing ones, looking around like that.
Yeah. Yep. And you'll notice there's different textures to all the stones. You'll also want to have various textures. Because for a Vata Pitta person, you might not want to go too rough. They might not need much exfoliation. Whereas a Kapha person is going to need that kind of slightly rougher stone. All face, yeah. Yeah, so some are going to be for gliding, some are going to be for spinning.
Yeah.
Be careful.
And so here are some toe stones. I'm just going to pass the basket around. You'll notice there's a variety of thicknesses. So like this one's pretty thin. That might go between the two smallest toes up to something a little bit wider for the big toe.
Actually, for stone for face, true to round, smooth for face, right? I think this one is very smooth.
So I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking. You're asking if ideally the stone should be round and smooth.
Like for true to have true to round like this, smooth like this for face.
Well, I think it depends for the person. If a person has very dry, rough skin, they might need some exfoliation. If a person has very thick skin, they might need some exfoliation. But if a person has inflamed skin or excessively dry, rough skin, you would want to be smoothing it out. So the texture, you'll want to have different texture stones. You don't want it to have just one texture. You want to have multiple textures so that you can choose which one's appropriate for the person you're working on. And as far as the shape goes, part of it is your hand. So part of it is what can you hold. I have pretty big hands, so I tend for larger stones. But you want to make sure you have stones that are going to fit someone's face and someone's features to be able to get around the features easily and comfortably. Yep. Okay, so now we're going to talk about
Now we know. What I need to
ยังไม่เคยเห็นฮอสโตนเป็นเที่ยวในเมืองไทย
So I'm going to load the heater now, and I want you to all turn to page 165, and also 167.
165, 167. It's the heater loading.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm going to load the heater, and if you'd like to see how it happens, now is the time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to load the sacrum stone and the belly stone first.
I'm gonna bring them over to the. There's some different stones and stuff. I'm gonna bring them right over.
Some more.
Yes.
Yeah.
two pairs, 2 more and 2 hot. I want one to get one
Did Karen show you how to load the heater?
She had them already set up, but
Okay.
we kind of went through it.
Yeah.
So we didn't see her actually put them in, but she had them loaded, and then when she was putting them back, she also talked about having them arranged so you can find them.
Okay. So do you want to see this, or should
Yeah.
Sorry,
It doesn't hurt.
Good to know.
So I'm going to put them in and think about how I'm going to be taking them out. So we've got face stones and toe stones here. I'm going to go toe stones. Oh, I'll wait until you're back. I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay.
But if someone would hold the computer so you can see it, maybe that might be helpful. Yeah, if you could, we can trade off too.
Can
Just trying to angle it.
So face stones and toe stones. Sacrum. Sorry, belly and then sacrum. Erector spinae. These are for the hands.
shoulder.
These. Yep. Neck and shoulder. And I'm going to use this for Marma.
Right.
So this is a facial setup. These are all the stones you need for a facial. For full body, there's going to be more. I might add a couple more. Which one?
No, I just said I like this one.
I like this one too. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just looking this for a little bit
No,
too.
no, they're just sparking in the eye.
That's a guiding. Too good.
All right. Easy peasy, right? So if someone would help me just move these to that corner.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're going to talk about the facial mask. The facial mask ingredients are
Yes, thank you so much. Hey, Danny, can I back here?
Oh, yeah.
You scooch it over. Thank you. I'm
I
sorry.
gave you on this last week for the Gartner class about the different herbs. So some other herbs are listed on page 186 to 188. And also the benefits of honey if you haven't looked at honey yet.
Raw honey.
Yes, raw honey. So would someone get me a paper cup or a small mixing bowl for mixing the mess? And a spoon too, please. Yeah. Thank you. The herbs from last week, amalaki. Amalaki is an antioxidant. You're welcome. You're welcome to pass and smell if you like. It's an antioxidant. It's an anti-inflammatory. It helps to remove excess pitta. It's deeply nourishing. Yeah, be careful when you're sipping.
Yeah.
I don't do that. Yeah. So amalaki is really great for pitta skin. It's also excellent for vata skin. It's anti-inflammatory. Yeah. But it's nourishing. It's the antioxidant. It has a lot of vitamin C, and it really, that vitamin C, that concentrated dose of vitamin C really nourishes the skin. So for lots of people who have kind of depleted, dry, sad skin. That's actually perfect. That's fine. Thank you very much. Karen, you had a question?
Oh, yeah, this amalaki. Where can I find that?
So I order almost all of my herbs from Banyan Botanicals. Banyan, B-A-N-Y-A-N. Botanicals, one word, .com. And you can set up a practitioner account. And you get, yeah, I think you get 20% off.
You need to be certified first.
You know, I didn't try as a student, so I'm not sure.
I did order some oils from them, but I didn't set up a practitioner account. But I didn't even look to see if I could because they weren't.
I will
The
try.
ones I ordered weren't all that expensive.
But you're already a licensed massage therapist.
Then if you're a licensed esthetician.
Yeah,
That might work.
So as an esthetician, but you also may just want to ask.
Just like I'm in
You know,
school.
just be like, I'm
Meeting
in
them.
school. I'd like to set up a practitioner account. I'll send you my license when I get it. You know, here's my enrollment. You can
Yeah.
ask Karen or-
Because a lot of them, if you have
Yeah, they
like an
yeah,
enrollment
good
letter
experience.
or
Yeah, absolutely.
I know like a lot of the cosmetic companies will.
I'm sorry, what did you want? This is licorice.
Not give you stuff.
So, and
It's worth a shot. Just ask.
Like with spa tech.
oh, it is, but it might be under its
Oh, it's
Yasamadu.
Okay.
Bobby Brown.
180, 150.
The next herb that's coming around as a possibility for facial masks is licorice. It's sweet, nourishing, cooling. It also has an unctuous, emulsant quality, which is very helpful for vata.
Yeah.
The cooling aspect is pacifying for pitta, and it helps to get kapha moving. So it's very tridoshic. Neem, no, remember, it's very bitter herb.
I'm sorry, what did you say for licorice? It's cooling for pitta
Cooling for pitta
and
helps to move
helps to
kapha.
move kapha.
This was crabbing.
What's that?
Scrubbing.
Scrubbing. Scrubbing. They're all, because of their texture, they're all a little bit exfoliant, but it's not particularly, that's not why we would be using it. So the neem is the very bitter one that we used last week. It is exceptionally cooling. So it is the prime mover for pitta, both internally and externally.
That the one you just had. It what it does. Cooling. Good for pitta.
Now is neem under a different?
It's not on your list?
Surprisingly not.
It is on our
It might be someplace separate.
syllabus.
But I think it's on the list that you gave us.
Yeah,
it's on
it's on
our
the list from
syllabus.
last week.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's on our
Yeah, so if you look at your syllabus, it's on the other side of your syllabus. For today.
So for neem, you can get the seed oil and like there's all the parts of the plant. Do all the parts of the plant have the same kinds of properties? Cool, because that gets confusing.
Rose petals, we used those last week.
Yeah, green.
Very cooling. Very tridoshic, especially good for pitta.
It's gonna get smooth.
And then tulsi.
It reminds me of the first one.
Tulsi is light,
Yeah,
Yeah.
very earthy.
warm, and pungent.
Yeah, that's good for my body. That's
Yes. Yes, it's very good in the winter time because it helps to balance out some of the cold. So it's good for kapha and vata, using it with caution for pitta. And then we have some carriers. I chose honey today, and there's also some Greek yogurt in the refrigerator. So raw honey. Raw is the honey that has the enzymes that are still active. So if you get honey from a conventional store, most likely it's been cooked, and all of the enzymes have died. So raw honey is going to have the most benefit.
So they have money every day. Honey is warm. Yeah, for water.
Skin.
Do you drink warm water?
Yes, it kills me.
Yeah, I don't like cold.
It's not good.
Do you drink warm water with lemon when you cook?
No, not actually. Yeah. I just want to try to go on board. Actually, I don't like to think. I like the room temperature. I don't like.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I hate ice water. It's like,
Yeah.
unless it's the summer. Like,
Maybe
yeah, unless it's like hot and I'm actively like warm.
Sometimes it charts me.
Our model today,
Like shape it. That's what I'm going
the partner.
Oh, I would love to.
Yeah. So Misha had a very good question you may want to hear the answer to. She asked if you could use yogurt in the ugartman. You absolutely can.
Ooh, that
See,
would
I
be
think I
nice.
would have really enjoyed.
Really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
The salt was
Yogurt and honey or something.
the salt hurt my skin after.
Who had the sugar?
I used the sugar on Ruby because I had like a little cut.
Oh, and she liked-
So
I
she
wonder how
liked
that-
it. She liked it.
I wonder if
I-
it felt a lot different than salt. or
It
if
was really
the same.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I think it was.
But
But it's still really gritty.
Skin.
Mhm.
I don't know. It depends on like how you grain it out.
Yeah, I had massive
also
grains of
add
salt
salt
in
to
mine,
the
and it was
yogurt?
like they didn't even. They would be on for like this
No,
and
I
like just
would
fall
use
off. And like,
I would use the yogurt
not
in
good.
place of that. So there's a reason I chose salt. And part of it was because I wanted you to experience what it's like to feel just a little bit imbalanced.
Yeah.
Because that's an experience that your clients could have if you choose the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So it's important to know what that feels like. That wasn't my intention,
Mm-hmm.
but there was something about choosing salt to give you an idea, because salt is there on the list for weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us and a lot of our clients might come in and say, I want to lose weight, give me the salt.
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel?
Mm-hmm.
I felt kind of disruptive,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what I meant when Angela asked also about using the herb you didn't like.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you can use the herbs that you gravitate to and that you like, and it becomes more of a restorative treatment. Or you can use the herbs that you don't like, and then it becomes more of a challenging treatment.
Yeah.
So if you want to challenge either your own constitution or someone else's constitution, it's good to know. And so what I'm hearing from all of you is that the salt challenged your constitution a bit. That maybe it would have been better to use, for your particular constitution, to use a yogurt or sugar or just herbs rather than, what's that?
I like the salt.
And that's the other thing that's really important to know is that it's going to be awesome for someone.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. What they
Exactly.
Mm.
What they need. And the reason we didn't use honey is because it is
oh
so
god.
no.
messy.
I think it was messy enough as it was.
It is cool.
You're going to stop. And yogurt is the same. It's
Yeah.
as messy as the salt was. The yogurt and honey are
We're not going to be messier.
even messier and harder to get off. Like there's no getting it off with one or two wipe downs.
Shower.
It's shower, and we don't have enough showers for everyone.
Mm.
So our client today is Laura. Are you ready to come and talk to us?
Yes.
Would you like to get a chair, or you can move that stuff to the floor and just take that chair if you'd like?
Yeah. Thank you. Over here for the
Constitution here that on a different day, I would really enjoy this
Should she turn it all the way down?
because it's interesting. When I was thinking about it after, the herbs that I chose were herbs that I
There's no light.
they were sweet.
Is it plugged in?
They were
There's nothing in the plug.
they were sweeter.
No, it's hot. It's,
Oh, yeah.
it's getting hot. I just wanted to make sure it's on a good
I chose
temperature.
because
It's not.
I
something I'm
tasted something
familiar with.
sweet.
Yeah,
and
no,
it's
that
warm.
So
They're all
that's
so
something
different.
Normally, I would
I put warm water in there too.
And keeping the lid on, even once you take that a lot.
So it's kind of funny how I chose all the light
Oh, you said
herbs
church,
and I
right.
know
Yeah.
and had
Yeah,
one of
so
the
it's-
just like
You're welcome to leave it on the table.
See my face.
So tell me what's going on.
Well, where to begin? Very lately very busy, very full schedules. I've been getting enough sleep, but it's really hard for me to fall asleep at night. So like I have to sleep in, but luckily with my job, I can kind of I don't have like a very set time that I have to go in. It's like they're very flexible. But work has been, like my actual work has been challenging in that a lot of like critical thinking in addition to all of the actual schoolwork that I've been doing. So feeling a little ungrounded, getting like some like when it comes to my skin, getting some like inflammation, eczema, not as bad with like acne as I have in the past, like in the past few years, but like a little bit here and there, dry sometimes, not in like a dry flaky, more of like a dry like inflamed kind of. I don't know if you could ask questions, might be helpful.
So are your cheeks always a little pink? I was combining that word.
A little bit,
Yeah.
but like they're pretty
feeling
red right
warm.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty but I'm typically like I'm very comfortable when it's cold. So like this room temperature is high for me. Yeah, I'm comfortable in the cold.
Can we pause here for a second? So what does that tell you about Laura? That she's comfortable in the cold and she feels warm. Pitta.
Yeah,
Like always have warm hands, warm feet, warm face. Like even if like it's very rare that I get cold extremities. It's really just in my own house because my house is freezing. And it'll be like at night, like if I'm like going to, I'm already like lying down. But when I'm cold, I'm not uncomfortable and I almost don't even think about it. But when I'm hot, I like feel like suffocated a little. Like it's I like sometimes will think like I'm gonna be sick if I'm warm. But then I kind of just try like I'm just uncomfortable. So it's very pitta.
Yeah, so that's telling me something about Laura. She's pitta predominant. It sounds to me with her, she's saying that she has some skin irritations, eczema, that there's also pitta vikruti going on. So she's pitta prakruti. I think it's pretty safe to say she's pitta dominant. Like eyeglasses. And I'm very medium. Probably the same size as everyone in your family-ish.
We have a range, quite a range. Yeah. Height-wise, though, yeah, medium.
All right. Can I listen to your pulse?
Yes.
So if you can, come just a little bit closer. Very level. And you're going to spin, so both knees are.
Okay. They're scary. They're like, we've had some falls.
Elbows on me.
Elbows?
So the pitta pulse underneath my fingers feels like a frog. When you start to begin learning pulse diagnosis, the pitta prakruti feels like a frog. Something. Kapha feels like an elephant. What does Vata feel like? Can you imagine?
Butterfly.
Butterfly. Yeah. Pitta near Vata, very close. If you want to try taking your pulse, ladies, you're going to take your right hand, reach around and underneath your left wrist, and place your first 3 fingers inferior to your hamate. Men are on the right side. So you're going to go underneath your wrist, Jason. Yeah, and reach around. There you go. Just notice what you feel. Prakruti is the deepest level of the pulse. So you're going to go all the way down until you can no longer feel the pulse. And then release it just the tiniest bit. And feel what you feel. And the most superficial level of the pulse is Vikruti. The mask we're going to make today for Laura is going to be a very cooling mask. She has a little patch of eczema on her forehead.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really see it unless you're looking for it.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah.
Kind of showed up like last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a little bit better.
I had originally chosen honey for today, but I also brought yogurt. So we're going to do a yogurt mask. Honey, despite its lovely qualities, that it's got lots of enzymes and is emulsifying and just really wonderful, is, I think, a little bit too warming, especially for Laura's face. Laura has a lot of pitta in her face today.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of see like little bumps,
Yeah.
little reds. So we're going to go with cooling. Cooling is going to be the name of the game for Laura. So even while I'm using the stones, I'm going to use more cooling stones than the heating stones. And the heating stones that I use are going to be very lightly heated. I'm going to make sure that today the heater's just on low, as low as it can go. And Laura told me previously that she didn't mind having heat on her body. But although this might feel good to her, my sense is that it's going to be slightly aggravating. So in order to help her balance, we're going to go with a slightly cooler treatment than what we might normally do for someone else who maybe has more vata and less pitta.
Is that, and with the pulse taking, is that, like, what did you see?
So your vata is high, your vata vikruti, but you also have pitta vikruti as well. Your vata and your pitta, it was a little bit hard to determine. There was like a moment where it almost felt like you were vata dominant. But there's a lot of people in this room and I'm very sensitive. So generally when I do pulse readings, there's only 2 people in the room, me and the person whose pulse I'm taking. So I would want to listen to your pulse at a later date. I think you're pitta dominant, but your vata is very close. If you're not dual doshik, you might be dual doshik. It was a little bit, it was just difficult for me to distinguish what was kind of happening because I'm talking and.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm like very aware that I'm in a room full of people too. So,
absolutely. Yeah. So that there's that in the pulse.
Yeah.
Right. The pulse is going to reflect that there's, 15 people looking at us.
Yeah,
Very
kind of go be true energy.
Yeah. Intense.
We want to know what's going on.
Does anyone have any questions about the stones? I know you did, Danny. Did you have questions? So if you have specific questions, I'm totally willing to answer them. You had a lot of stones out there, and we don't have the time for me to just go through all of the stones and tell you which ones are appropriate. But we can look at some if you would like that. Or anyone else, for that matter, who brought stones or has specific questions about stones. Okay. On to making the mask. You don't need a lot for the mask. This was one of the things I couldn't believe when I first started making masks, was how little stuff you need. So, yeah, either have lots of friends around to do this with, or be very conservative. For the herbs, for anything dried that you're going to add to the mask, you're going to add about 1 teaspoon total of dried herbs to 1 tablespoon of either, in this case, yogurt or honey. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of neem, because we're also going to be using a neem oil. And a tiny bit of licorice. So the sweetness of licorice is going to help balance the pitta. You know about the 6 tastes?
No.
Okay. Oh wait, we need to talk about that later. So you can see how the herbs. It's a Greek yogurt. It's. I'll tell you the ingredients.
Does it matter? I mean, would it matter if I do not use Greek yogurt?
It just is a little bit thicker.
Okay, just thicker.
So it's
Better base.
it's a little bit firmer of a base. It can tend to be a little bit runny if you don't use the Greek yogurt. This is really just milk and cultures. So purest whatever you can. Don't use fruit. No, you can. No, I would always prefer to use something that's really pure. That's really my only.
What's the fat percentage? Does that matter?
Whole milk yogurt.
Whole milk yogurt is going to be ideal. I couldn't find any organic whole milk yogurt yesterday. Because there was, and this is just a demonstration of intuition. I wasn't planning on getting yogurt. And yesterday afternoon I was like, I need to go get some yogurt. And the health food store is 30 minutes away. And I was like, I gotta go right here. I don't have time to. And I'm glad I did, because I'm working with Laura. And Laura definitely needs yogurt and not, but you can see how thick it is. Okay, herbs, just a little bit, a teaspoon of herbs, tablespoon of yogurt.
Use neem and licorice.
Neem and licorice, yeah. If you look in your handbook, you can see there's lots of options. I'm adding a little bit more yogurt. And if you make too much and it's for a client, you can always send them home with this nice bonus. This is like exceptionally thick yogurt, so I'm gonna add more. I think full fat might be less thick. Even. Okay, yeah, that's better. So there's kind of a texture you want to go for. Honey is different because honey will soften once it gets onto a person's skin, because the heat, someone's body temperature is going to change that. Okay. So that's our mask. Would you like me to pass it around so you could see it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, is the honey hard to mix?
Not
It
particularly.
depends on the temperature. So
Right.
if you're in a warm room, it's going to be easier. Even in the summertime, it's going to be easier. My house is like 65, and
Yeah.
it was really kind of viscous and
Yeah.
thick. And but then I was testing it yesterday. I put it on yesterday, and it was as soon as it hit my skin, it started dripping off. So, yeah, play with it. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Play with it. Have fun.
So I see turmeric on here,
Mm-hmm.
and I was cooking with turmeric the other day, and I got it on my hand, and my hand was like yellow for
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the rest of the day.
Yeah,
So,
turmeric will definitely stain. It will stain your teeth. Like people have started drinking turmeric tea.
yeah.
You're gonna end up with orange teeth. You're gonna end
Yeah.
up with teeth the color of this wall.
Oh yeah.
I put a spoon turmeric in warm water.
Mhm.
That day, I have gassed a lot of father-in-laws in there.
Yeah. It can be intense, right? Like it's a little, like they're just about.
See, I
to-
find turmeric can be too heating
Yeah.
for some pitta folks, including myself. So
Yeah.
it's really important to be careful, even with something as lovely and wonderful as turmeric, that it's not too heating for the pitta people. What else do you need? We're gonna step out while Laura changes.
Yeah, doesn't it? I want to eat it.
Laura, you could.
I know. I
It's gonna be
will.
amazing.
That's the wonderful thing is that you could totally eat this facial mask.
Oh yeah.
So